Was that an impression of Roberto Luongo's ringtone? Yes, it was, but more importantly, that is the sound of the Chicago Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup for the third time in the last 6 seasons. Like it's something to do. Oh, you better get how good that team is. If you don't love your team, you better take care of that team, because you know what? Could be that. Could be that. Here are some things you, as Chicago Blackhawks fans out there, may not get about how good your team is. Before I shoot a video, I like to look around the internet, see what I can find. You know, I go on NHL.com. That's a good place to start. On NHL.com, there's a picture. And that picture is of Marian Hossa in a red Chicago Blackhawks jersey, chilling in front of millions of screaming Blackhawks fans. I assume they were screaming. It's a picture, and those are silent. Ain't nobody going to a quiet Stanley Cup parade. Anyway, Marian Hossa standing in front of millions of screaming, cheering Chicago Blackhawks fans. Ah, we just won it all. Yeah, and I go, oh, isn't that so nice? Wait a second. The Stanley Cup parade is tomorrow. This picture must be from one of the other times they won the Stanley Cup recently. Couple things there. One of the times that they won recently. Everyone's been talking about the word dynasty. Are the Chicago Blackhawks a modern day dynasty? And the reason we say modern day dynasty is nobody is going to win the Stanley Cup 4 or 5 times in a row again, like the Montreal Canadiens did, like the New York Islanders did, like the Edmonton Oilers did. So now, here is, I think, the new blueprint for what a dynasty is. If you can't tell which year a Stanley Cup parade photo is from, forget the fact that the Blackhawks have most of the same core. They haven't even given camera technology a chance to get that much better yet. Most teams, they win, and then you look at a picture of the previous time they won, and it's like, what'd you take that with a grapefruit? With the Blackhawks, it's like, oh, is that photo from yesterday? No, it is not. Oh, I'm sorry, then what year is that picture of Kane, Taves, Keith, Seabrook, Hjalmarsson, Hossa, and Sharp from? The Blackhawks' top 5 scorers have been there for all 3 cups. In the last 6 seasons, the Blackhawks have almost as many Stanley Cups as Dave Bolland had assists with the Leafs. And that number's 4, and if they win it next year, they catch them. The Blackhawks have as many Stanley Cup wins in the last 6 seasons as the Leafs have playoff wins in the last 10. They're good. The Chicago Blackhawks are good. Anyway, but here, let's talk about the final. Oh, you know, that pesky little thing that's just in the Blackhawks' way whenever they make their way to the Stanley Cup. Let me ask you something. When a team wins the Western Conference Final, do they look at the Stanley Cup Final like, why? Dude, you're just delaying our party by 2 weeks. Well, okay, a week and a half. We're not going 7. Let's be serious here. God, so many teams have done that, like the Kings and the Blackhawks and the Kings and the Blackhawks. Seriously though, I'm making it sound like the East is a joke, and it's not. The Tampa Bay Lightning were a legitimate contender, and they might have pushed Chicago to 7, might have even beat them had they not had the injuries they had. Ben Bishop playing with a torn groin. He had a torn groin. You know how haggard of an injury that is? Here's how you know an injury is gross. I want you to go find a mirror, look yourself in the face, and say, torn groin. I don't like this game. Shut up and do it! And Tyler Johnson, who could not stop scoring, had a broken wrist. That, to me, killed the Lightning much more than Bishop's injury. I mean, Bishop at least played well. I mean, by played well, I mean the puck didn't go in, right? And with Johnson, he played bad because, well, the puck didn't go in. Funny how that works. And I know, obviously, the Blackhawks had their injuries to deal with as well, but Tyler Johnson with a broken wrist basically can't shoot, basically can't take a face-off. That is murder. And you know, people talk about how Steven Stamkos played and how much Steven Stamkos struggled. Yeah, 1 assist in 6 games in the Stanley Cup Final. But winning is a very funny thing. Stamkos only having 1 assist was a narrative all Stanley Cup Final long. And heading into Game 6, you know who also just had 1 assist? Patrick Kane. Gets a goal and an assist in Game 6, we just forget all about it. Sometimes your team's star players get shut down. That's what the other team's job is, after all. It's about the supporting cast around them. We're ripping on Stamkos, but can't Chicago just be good? Prior to that, the struggling Steven Stamkos had 17 points in 20 games. Struggling. That's 0.85 points per game, which is way worse than his regular season total of 0.87 points per game. I think as fans, we focus too much on individual goals. Look at points as receipts. A goal is a little receipt with a stamp on it that says, I scored. An assist is a little receipt and stamped on it, it says, well, someone scored. An assist is a receipt with a stamp on it that says, well, someone scored and I helped. Or you might have even shot it and it went off a skate, it went off someone's ass, Andrew Shaw decided to go like that and put it in, doesn't count. By the way, now that we're here, that should probably count, right? I know it's against the rules, but screw that, it's a dumb rule. Like, refs should have the ability to go, that's against the rules, but it looked cool, so I'll allow it. Anyway, a little more on Tampa. With a little bit of luck and health, you are gonna be ridiculous for a while. Cause you're young and good. Cause you're young and great. And next season, you'll still be young and better. Forget top defenseman, or he was very impressive, he had a breakout playoffs. Victor Hedman is a star in the National Hockey League. The triplets are so amazing that we call them the triplets and we know who they are. Except for that one guy who was like, oh, Corey Schneider plays with the Sedins now? Oh, honey, no. Tampa Bay Lightning fans, I want you to take this with you. In 2007, the Pittsburgh Penguins get clobbered by the Ottawa Senators 4-1 in round 1. The following season, the Tampa Bay Lightning play the Senators again and beat them.
Did I say Tampa? I meant Pittsburgh. I got excited.
And make it to the Stanley Cup final and lose in 6 games. The next year, they win the Stanley Cup. 2014, the Tampa Bay Lightning play the Montreal Canadiens in round 1 and get killed. 2015, even though it wasn't in round 1, the Lightning play the Canadiens again and beat them. En route to a berth in the Stanley Cup final, where they lose in 6. Next season, with a captain who is also a first overall pick? And just like with Pittsburgh, will it be against the team that beat them in the final last year? Not if Mike Babcock has anything to say about it, am I right? Am I right? Please don't suck. Anyway, Tampa fans, be cool. Chicago fans, damn. You had such a hard journey en route to the Stanley Cup. You know what? I gotta bring in some help on this to show your journey. Iggy, come, I need your help. Hello. You had to beat the Nashville Predators, and their logo looks like this. Open your mouth, go, ah. And then you had to beat the Minnesota Wild, and their logo looks like this. No, show them what the logo looks like, I love you. Come on, buddy, we're halfway through. And then you did this to the Anaheim Ducks, and Ryan Getzlaf, and oh my goodness, how can they not play Game 7s? Arr, arr, arr. And then you beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, so you got to do this. And Duncan Keith, as deserving as any Conn Smythe winner ever, holy smokes, are the Blackhawks lost without that guy. Without Keith, you're basically trying to win every game 8-7, right? He played the ice time of like 3 or 4 guys, depending on how Johnny Oduya's hand felt. And even then, Oduya's just one-handing it like, get out of here, you crazy kids, huh? So Duncan Keith was incredible, playing with the competitiveness of a lion. Of course, the Blackhawks have all the talent in the world, and the X factor that they have had in every Stanley Cup run of theirs recently so far, an old guy. In 2010, Jonathan Toews gives it to Marian Hossa. Didn't quite count as an old guy then, but he had just lost in back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, so that counts. In 2013, nobody stood a chance because the Blackhawks had 2 old guys in Michael Handzus and Jamal Mayers. And now in 2015, the Blackhawks head into the playoffs and people go, they're good, but they're not great. Sir, I have some bad news. What could it possibly be? The Blackhawks have acquired a 40-year-old defenseman named Kimmo T. His name doesn't matter, we're doomed. The Blackhawks could be dead last in the NHL at the trade deadline, but somehow they signed Jeremy Roenick to a contract, and it's like, we're waiting for the old guy, and the Juggernaut train just starts up. Pre-game shows, so Jonathan Toews has a miraculous 65 goals since February. And of course, the ever-lovable, the ever-gifable Coach Q. With his mustache and dad stare, Joel Quenneville knows how to motivate, strategize, and of course be hilarious on camera at least once a playoffs. He grabbed his junk last year and then he's kicking towels this year. It's great. Really ask yourself, have you ever been so mad that you kicked a towel? Okay, now have you ever been so mad that you were like 50 and kicked a towel? He's just the best. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really like to. Tell all your friends. Congratulations to the Chicago Blackhawks. And my goodness, until next season, my friends. And by that I mean I'm probably going to make a video like next week. Iggy, look, treat. And then you beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, so you got to do this. No. Iggy, treat. Eat it. Look. Iggy, up here. Up here, buddy. Up here. Look. Come on. Iggy. Come on this side of the cup. Don't you know camera angles and cheating? Jesus.
Hey.
Get up. And then you beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, so you got to do this.